do you do when your energy plummets and you have no more? Well, today, on day 16 of my fasting series, I'm going to tell you how you can rejuvenate your energy and start from an empty battery and fill it and get even more energy. Now, day 16 of the fast here for me, 9 days ago, Marilyn Valenzuela found these videos. I just published them. I was a few days into it, and she decided to fast along with this process. So she's now on day 7 of her fast. And she left a very insightful comment about what do you do when your energy is very low. So she's been experiencing low energy throughout the fast, and she was wondering about, how to regain the energy and how to deal with that low energy. So I'm going to discuss that today on ways to build your energy, even if you have none. She made the comment that she was really looking forward to doing a lot of Qigong while fasting, but she doesn't have the energy to do Qigong. Now this really is a catch-22, because Qigong will give you energy. It'll pep you up, it'll replace the food. But if you feel like you don't have the energy to do the Qigong, then you can't get the energy from the Qigong. So where do you start when you're stuck in this process? She also asked another great comment that I'm going to answer in tomorrow's video about the patience and just how to have the right mindset and what to look forward to for extending the fast further. Just how do you deal with this mentally and emotionally? Well, that's going to be covered tomorrow. The reason for making these videos custom tailored to our member comments is because I'm not just here to teach blindly at nothing. I'm trying to share this with people who are implementing this information and benefiting from it. And then, if Marilyn is experiencing these issues, these are things that I've experienced, and I know that other people who are going through a fasting process are going to appreciate this as well. We also have some other people starting to fast along with this video series, so that's very exciting and encouraging to me, because I've been doing all of this on my own without anyone to talk to about it, and now putting it out there. That input is really valuable to me, so I am grateful to you for your comments and your feedback on what's happening, because there are certainly ways to deal with these issues. As a side bonus, these are things you can use even when you're not fasting to build energy. So first, I want to look at, Marilyn's been just drinking water for 7 days, and she says that she needs to rest a lot. She doesn't have a lot of energy to do stuff like the Qigong that she was doing before doing the fast. She just doesn't feel like she has the energy to do that. She's honoring her body and going with that. So the first thing that I just want to point out is that when you're fasting, your body is healing on a very deep level. So there are going to be certain impurities, certain toxins, certain emotional stress and blocked energy that's built up in your organs, in your fat tissue. When we eat things that have on a physical level, the things we eat have toxins stored in them that are in our fat. So as the fat begins to burn and melt away, some of this is released. This is often referred to as fasting flu. It's just feeling like this general lethargic. Some people just experience it as a tiredness. Other people experience it as a little bit of a queasiness. So the first thing is that some of that is to be expected. Everybody's different. The reason why I go through these stages really quickly right now is because I've done so much fasting. In the past 18 months, I've fasted 50% of the time. So that's 9 months in the 18 months. Half the time of not eating any food in a 24-hour period. So a lot of that, I've taken it in smaller doses where I've felt those kind of symptoms. Now I'm able to get into a fast, and on day 1 or 2, I jump to like what you would normally experience on day 3 or 4. That's because I have a lot of experience with this. Now for someone who's new to this process, these time windows that I'm describing, I'm basing that on my more recent experience because that's where my memory's at. I've been doing this for so long, it's kind of hard to remember exactly the days that it took when I first started this process. So realize that if I say 3 days, that could stretch to 5 or 7 days for you. And where I say I was at on day 10, that might be day 14 or 20 for other people who are new to the process. If you have more inside that needs to dramatically heal and release, expect it to be longer. But in the earlier stages of the fast, this is something that I didn't even think to talk about, just because I'm so used to dealing with this, that Marilyn brings it up, is in the first stages of the fast, you are going to experience some tiredness. Once you get over, like the immediate first stage would be, you're feeling whatever kind of hunger, or maybe not physical hunger, but emotional hunger, because as you go 24 hours, 48 hours without food, on an emotional level, you may miss the sensation of eating. So that's sort of your first stage, and that's going to outweigh a lot of the other tendencies, that emotional. But then it's, as you cut your food back, you're used to having that energy, so it's natural to dip down and to get more tired. What your body's doing, after it figures out that you're no longer feeding it, what the body's doing is it's going into power saver mode. It's trying to shut down things that it doesn't need. So it's lowering your metabolism to burn things more slowly. It's just figuring out, how can you maybe breathe a little softer. It's transitioning, and it's going through its own intelligence of how to do that. Now, in the beginning, there's a temptation to just sit there, do nothing, and the catch-22 problem with that is there's nothing wrong with resting. If you feel like you need sleep, I'm a big believer that, through this phase, catch up on your sleep. If you're tired and want to sleep, then sleep. But as soon as you wake up, don't just lay in bed. When you're awake and you feel like you can't sleep anymore, you could try going back to sleep for a few minutes. But if you wake up and you can't fall back asleep in 5 minutes, it's good to at least get out of bed, because staying in bed while you're not sleeping can be depressing and energy draining. It's just not a good feeling to be there. If you did want to stay in bed, at least sit up, read a book, or even watch TV. It's better to be doing something than just laying there disparagingly. So on the one hand, if you feel like you need sleep, even if it's double what you're used to sleeping, your body is using that. It's also helping you pass the time, so that's a good thing. You will come to a point where you've caught up on sleep, and then it'll go the other way, where you'll find that you need a lot less sleep. So you're going to feel a lot better doing that. Another issue that comes into play on day 7, I talked about this in my day 4 video. You can go back and examine all the reasons that I gave for this. But sodium, salt, it's the one thing on we call it a water fast. Keep in mind, most of the Earth's water is in the ocean. So salt water comes under the umbrella of a water fast. And if you're fasting for longer than 5 days, it's a good idea to take sodium, and not until you feel like you need it. But if you're feeling low on energy and you haven't taken salt and it's day 7, well, you can have a cup of vegetable broth. Now, there is 10 calories in that, but if you're committed to fasting and you're not going to eat any other food, 10-calorie vegetable broth will not hurt you. And I found that can last maybe 5 days. Like, you have the 1 cup of broth, you might get a boost from that for 5 or 7 days. And so I'm at the point where I don't even really feel like I need it anymore. I've had 2 cups of broth on this whole fast on day 16 so far, and it just seems longer and longer like I need less and less of that broth. So 20 calories in 16 days isn't breaking a fast. It's not breaking the rules. My opinion, that's allowed. There may be some purists out there who disagree with that, but sodium is just the one thing that's, it's good to have that. So if you haven't taken any sodium, I list other ways to get it on day 4 video. If you haven't taken any, if you sip that 1 cup of broth, you'll probably feel 200 to 300% better just based on that. And again, this isn't a weakness, it's not a crutch, it's just, something that, you need the salt. The salt is good for you. We need some salt in our system. And 7 days of drinking only water, not eating any food, you've flushed out most of your salt. That's going to cause low energy, and it's going to cause possibly some nausea and some other feelings. Before moving forward with how to gain energy, I just want to also add that you do have to listen to your body. So stubbornness, like blatant stubbornness, is not rewarded in this process. So if you come to a point where you feel like something is wrong, like something bad will happen, if you really get that strong feeling that something's not right, then that's the time to consider ending the fast. I have ended fast when I've gotten those feelings, and I believe that that's the right thing to do. So you don't want to push yourself beyond like a true feeling of like this is not good for you. You can always come back later, try to go longer. Now I'm not saying this to use this as an excuse. Keep your commitment and stick with that. And in the absence of that sort of bad feeling, you may be uncomfortable, you may be low energy, but if you still feel relatively okay, then that's good. But don't ignore the signals if you start to feel like, wow, something's not right, my body just isn't accepting this. Well, that's because maybe you've gone as far as you need to for now, and this is a learning experience, and you can always pick it back up, and you will definitely go further later if that's your intention. Sometimes we're only able to release a certain amount of what we need to release in one block of time. So another way to get energy now. So we've talked about the salt, which is important. And now we want to look at the Dantian and Qi charting. So Marilyn mentioned that she didn't have the energy to do Qigong. So the first tip related to this is that you can mentally do Qigong. So Marilyn, for your practice that you were doing of Qigong before this, I'm going to be teaching in Discovering Qi, I'm going to be teaching a special practice that's good for life, for everything you do in life. It's a daily Qigong practice you could do for the rest of your life and get a myriad of benefits. And I'm actually going to give like a pre-lesson introduction to Spinning Universe Qigong at the end of this video, towards the end of today. But the Qigong practice that you were doing, you can sit there. I recommend sitting upright with a good posture at least, or standing with a good posture. But if you're feeling low energy, sitting. If you're not able to sit, you can do this laying down. I recommend it's better to sit. Sit in a chair with a good posture and imagine yourself doing your Qigong. Now this will activate energy. This will bring energy to you. All of this takes practice, so you might not feel it as intensely, but when I do my daily Qigong practice, I make it a habit to do it mentally from time to time. When I do the whole practice mentally, for me it actually activates more energy in some cases, not all the time, but sometimes I feel it more strongly. I get more out of the mental, just imagining my energy body doing the Qigong, because our mind directs Qi. So our physical bodies don't have to move to do Qigong. So you can just do a gentle, even if you're not directing the energy or feeling the energy, just gently imagine the movement, and you will be activating Qi. So that's one of the things you can do. Now, secondly, I've spent a third of these videos talking about the Dantian, and today we're going to do some more Dantian work. Now, why is the Dantian important in this situation? Well, we have these three energy centers, the main energy centers of our body, and it's the Dantian, and then we have our heart center and the center of our brain. Now, as we move up, the dantian is more connected with the ground, so it's grounding. So whenever you send energy here, you're grounding. Like if your body is a miniature universe, you're grounding to your dantian, which is also more connected with the physical energy of living and being in this physical realm. So if you need more physical energy, really the dantian is the place to focus on. And it's more connected with the earth energy, the grounding energy. Now as we move up, the heart center is our emotional center, but it's the bridge between the mental spiritual energy, which, in the center of the brain, going up into the more ethereal, spiritual, mental dimension, which isn't physical at all. It's a completely different dimension. It's a different realm. Well, the brain energy is connected to that, and then the heart is the bridge. The heart is the connection between the physical and the mental and spiritual. So whenever we use our mind to direct things, if it concerns emotional and physical stuff, we're actually linking that with the heart and getting the heart to influence the dantian. It's, the mind isn't really directly influencing the dantian as much as we would think. So these things connect. The heart is the bridge. So the Qigong practice is uniting these three and flowing the energy between those realms and utilizing that. So it's crucial, if you're experiencing a lack of energy, to focus on the dantian. Now there's a playlist on my YouTube channel. If you go to this YouTube channel, you click on Awaken Qi next to that little profile and go and look, you'll see a tab that says videos, and next to that you'll see playlists. Click on playlist and you'll see dantian, I think it's called dantian Qi charging. Go there and it has every video that I've created that focuses on the dantian. The important thing is, while these may sound like cool, interesting ideas, the payoff is in the practice. So a really powerful technique that I covered in one of those videos is to point the middle fingers at the dantian and then just imagine a beam of light going from as far as you can imagine outward, coming in through your fingers, connecting to the dantian. We also have this centering. We center the centers of our palms with the dantian, and you can also imagine energy flowing in. And we also have the dantian breathing, so we're breathing in and out through the dantian. Watch that video for that process. So spending 5 or 10 minutes doing each of those activities is going to strengthen your connection between the mind and the heart and the dantian. It's going to activate the dantian more. And you need to go through a certain amount of practice to truly activate that, where you can feel the immediate benefits of it. If I hit like an energy low, for whatever reason, we could become very grounded, and somehow we could just discharge all of our energy and use it all, sometimes without even knowing it. Sometimes we can understand why that happened, but sometimes we just hit a wall where we've given away all our energy. It's all gone. We may have been leaking it without knowing it, and now it's gone. So I can literally, just with my mind, just fill that with energy fairly quickly, and I can bounce back pretty quickly from those things. But it took me some time and practice to do that. So if you're less experienced with it, it's probably going to just take you more time. Like, you could still do it with little experience, but you're going to have to spend more time in your day doing it to fill that. And also the benefit is, once you're filling it on an ongoing basis by doing these practices daily, then you're not going to be hitting those walls. But when you stop doing the Qigong, the energy is going to run out. For me, I've noticed about a 3-day lag. When I get completely full of Qi, when this is just like overflowing, I've noticed that if I were to stop doing Qigong for 2 or 3 days, I kind of don't feel the impact. And then the wall comes and I'm zapped. I'm just done. So then I start, when I notice that happening, or if I feel it getting low, it starts to get at 20% or 10%, then I really do increase my efforts. But the level of Qigong that I'm doing while fasting is very intense compared to what most people would be comfortable doing. I've built up to that. Now, what you want to do is just fill that with energy, and focus on that dantian to make that connection. Now I'm going to give you something new today as well. Now this is the first time ever explaining this publicly. This has never been recorded. This is 5,000-year-old teaching that I learned from the Dashijia directly. That's been passed down from teacher to student for 5,000 years. And through a series of miraculous events, I was able to learn this information, and I was gifted the blessing of being able to share this. So realize that this has been used for 5,000 years, where people didn't go to hospitals. They were able to live without food for extended periods of time. This stuff really works. And I will explain the reasons why this works very deeply and very profoundly in the Discovering Qi program, which is the session that immediately follows this 21-day water fast on the YouTube channel. And you can also go to the Awaken Qi website, register for that, and you're going to get the most up-to-date version of that. So make sure you're on that list. So this is sort of a pre-lesson. This is just a technique. This is related to the main practice of Spinning Universe Qigong. This has many levels and layers, but this is enough to begin doing this practice. So I'm just going to give you one powerful technique that I suggest you do this in conjunction with the other dantian, qi charging, energy gathering methods. There's even more in the book, but I'm trying to teach something new as well, just to get it out there. So you can follow the other energy charging techniques, like eating qi burgers is wonderful. I'm going to cover that in an upcoming video. Qi burgers, very easy to do, very beneficial. And also the swirling qi, both variations are very helpful for this. But this is a different practice that will enhance all of those. So when you're out of energy, I would recommend spending 30 to 60 minutes a day, broken up into different periods. You can do it for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, or even up to a half hour at a time. 30 to 60 minutes a day, as much as you feel comfortable, and allow a little bit of lag time. See how you feel a day or two later after doing this, and do it consistently. So don't do it once for 30 minutes and then tomorrow say, well, I didn't notice much of a change, and then you give up. Do it for 30 minutes today, do it for 45 minutes tomorrow, and then by day 3, still do it, and at that point notice, okay, it might not take you that long to feel it, but give it 3 days in a row, and maybe do 30, 45, 60 minutes, and then at the end of that day 3, that's a good time to check in and see the difference that it's made. You'll probably notice it much sooner. But again, it does take time to master this and to get to a competent level. You'll feel benefits very soon, though. So what we're looking at here is, let's look at how the energy flows through the body. So whenever we have our hands close to each other, okay, there's an energy flow. Now, we're usually unaware of it if we're not practicing Qigong. As you practice Qigong, you'll get more aware of it. So, when you're touching, that's very grounding. It's not subtle. You're exchanging physical energy. There's physical energy flowing there. But when there's a gap, just think of like electricity. It will arc and jump through. Our body's an electrical system. So when we have a distance, right now the energy is flowing between my fingertips. It's going up one hand and jumping over to the other fingertip. Simultaneously, it's coming from the other side, jumping over here. So there's this back and forth energy jumping through the thumbs, and then the centers of the palms are also exchanging energy. So these are they're called the Laogang. It's a main energy center in the body, sort of next after these three. These Laogang in the centers of our feet are other major qi flow channels. So right now we have this nice flow where it's just going like this, and then it flows through our arms back to our heart, and there's thousands of connections that flow it through our body. Now, Spinning Universe Qigong, this is just one of the fundamental aspects of it, is when we have our fingers turned this way, we're creating a spiral pattern. So it wants to jump fingertip to fingertip. So when we turn our fingertips, what's happening is this energy from these fingertips is going like this, and some of it's going into the Laogong, some of it's going into the other fingertips, and simultaneously it's going in the other direction. Now we can also use our mind to direct it. And another thing is the hand that's on top, that's closer to our perception, so our mind is naturally going to enhance or multiply sort of the action of the top. So while other energy is flowing contrary, backwards, sort of a counter-directional, this is the main direction. There's going to be more chi flowing that way. So that would be the predominant direction. So this chi spiral is one of our fundamental tools for the Spinning Universe Qigong. And it's a really beautiful, there's a lot of scientific explanation on this. It's a deep, profound reasons why that's true. And that's coming in discovering Qi. And it's definitely something worth learning a lot more about. But for now, I'm just going to give you the technique and you can see its results. So that is a fundamental pattern. So what we're going to do is, I'll just demonstrate it without doing it, just going through the motions, and then we can do three motions of it. So you start off in your standing posture, and then always good to set a general intention of well-being and goodness. If you need energy, so have an intention for aliveness and just living energetically. See yourself vibrant. In a brief moment, just have that intention because you're going to program the energy to give you that. So we start off in our posture, and then slowly. The key with Qigong is the slower the movement, the more deeply you're activating energy. So I'm actually going a little faster. You can kind of start at this speed, but definitely do some where you're moving as slowly as you possibly can and activating that energy. Then you want to align the center of your palms, your Laogong, with your dantian. No need to really think about it other than just aligning those 3 points. No need to bring energy in with this practice, and just centering and just feeling. You can kind of feel the energy activating in the dantian. If you want to add a visualization to it, you can just imagine the energy from all directions just sort of being sucked in, and just feel that. If you can't feel it being sucked in from all directions, just try to envision that point, and it's like buzzing a little bit, coming alive, activating, or even shining more brightly if you can visualize that. Anything to get a higher awareness of the dantian is good here. And then keep in mind, men, you have your left palm touching your stomach and then your right palm on top. Women, it's reversed. So then what we want to do is we want to open up the chi spiral. We want to activate that. So what we're going to do is, if you remember from a former video, that's why this was taught earlier, for men you want to initiate the chi spiral clockwise, outward first. For females, there's not a lot to remember about this. We got our hand position and our direction of our spiral. So men, we want to rotate out clockwise first and then bring it back counterclockwise. For females, you go the other way. You go counterclockwise first and then clockwise backwards. So how do you match the orientation of the chi spiral? Well, we're going to go like this to create the chi spiral. So whatever hand's on top, just imagine a clock. So if you're trying to go, it's backwards from how I'm seeing it to how you're viewing it. But if you imagine a clock in front of your face and you want it to go counterclockwise, you just point your fingers from the top. The fingertips should be pointing backwards from 12 to 11 to 10 to 9. And then that's going to be your movement. And if you want to go clockwise the other way, you put your fingers on top so that your fingers are pointing towards increasing numbers, 12, 1, 2, 3. So for men, to begin going clockwise, you're going to start with your left hand on top. So the hand that's touching your stomach is going to come to the top, and that'll be your starting position. So for women, if your right hand's on the bottom, you're going to lift the bottom hand and put it on top. Now that you have your direction, I'll do the correct direction for me, what we're going to do is we're going to, as slowly as possible, I'll demonstrate it a little bit more quickly. If you do this along with me in a few minutes, go at my speed, but then practice doing this more slowly. And If you can imagine the chi spiral, what we want to do is create like a little chi tornado as we move outward. So starting at the dantian, that's the center, and then it spirals out as like a chi whirlpool that's expanding. If you can't visualize it, this posture and this movement actually activates that energy. Now that you're aware of what it's doing, your mind is smart enough to activate that energy. So we're going to start off in our position, and then we're going to move up to create this spiraling chi, and then we're just going to slowly, gradually move outward and expand upward. Okay, until your arms aren't fully extended, but still naturally bent, but about as far out as you can reach. And the highest they should be is maybe even with your chest, or slightly lower than your chest center, and symmetrical, so down near your groin area. Okay, so we spread out, and then if you want to hold this for 10 or 20 seconds or a little while, so ideally until you feel what's happening, but if not, just holding it is good. And if you want to do the visualization, now we have this chi whirlpool that's centered. Imagine a tornado of energy that comes out of your dantian, and it's coming out and it's expanding. Well, when you stop expanding with your arms while you're paused, you imagine it going further. So it travels to the wall in front of you, and it keeps getting bigger. And so you're holding this piece of the chi spiral because it's at that width in your hands. But now it's maybe from floor to ceiling at the end of this room. Outside, it's touching the ground and going into the ground a little bit, and it's going up to the sky, and then it expands up and encompasses the moon. As far as you can imagine, take it to the sun would be enough. You don't have to go further than that. So, or just to the wall in front of you, or just to outside to the ground and to the sky would be enough as well. So as far as you feel comfortable imagining, hold it there for a moment, and then we're going to reverse direction. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more of an advanced mudra here, not a mudra, mantra here. This is an energy activation, so we have a phrase. Now if you follow along with me, you can just listen to me saying this. You can say it mentally, or you can say it out loud. So whenever we're changing the direction in Spinning Universe Qigong, we have a command where the vibration of the words is telling the energy. If we want to speed it up or change direction, then we can say this phrase. And the command is Hunwa. So we come out here, we wait a few seconds, 10 or 20 seconds, and then you say the command right before the energy shifts. And as soon as you say the command, you start changing the direction, and you feel the whole chi spiral that was rotating one way just like kind of pauses for a second when you say the command, and then reverses direction quickly. So we come out here, we pause, and then we say Hunwa, flip it, and then slowly bring it back in. Back to almost touching our body. We don't touch our body, we come within an inch or two. And then we're going to do this 3 times. And then we'll change it again. Hunwa. And then we're going to bring it back out. Hold it. Hunwa. I moved my hands before saying it because of teaching it. But before we move, 1 second before, Hunwa. Bring it back in. Reverse direction again. Hunwa. Out again. Reversing direction. Hunwa. And on the 3rd time, we're going to bring it back in and then slowly return to our centering position. And then we're going to hold that for about 20 seconds, just imagining the spiral like going deeply into the dantian. And then when you get to the point where you're ready to finish and seal the energy and lock it in, you can Either just imagine it all going down to the one point, like it all just getting sucked in, the rest of it sucked in one moment. And we have a command for that as well with Spinning Universe Qigong. It's Zizal Jo. And you say the Jo more quickly. And that locks it in, it drives it in, you're commanding it to go in. And when you do that, it's going to send most of the energy into the dantian to be stored, and the dantian will distribute that throughout your body, and it will, some energy will leak out in the process. It will actually send sort of a shock wave to the rest of your body, which is just sort of giving the body a temporary jolt of what it needs. It's a very pleasurable feeling and a very awakening, like, wow, I just drank a shot of espresso, possibly. You're going to feel that more as you practice. So if you'd like to follow along with me, I will demonstrate one session of this. I'm going to do it a little more quickly. I do recommend that when you practice this on your own, do it at this speed a few times, but then really take your time to do this as slowly as you possibly can, like moving very slowly. Even just for one expansion out and bringing in, like even if you did one and you could take 5 or 10 minutes to do it like extremely slow, you're activating energy more deeply that way. So I'm going to demonstrate this silently with my eyes closed. You can watch me and watch with soft eyes. Close your eyes halfway and follow along. And I will say the commands, but I'm not going to talk while I'm doing it. So we're going to start with our posture and our good intention and go from there. was like several cups of coffee. It's going to take some practice, but wow, that is good energy. I didn't really feel like I needed a boost, but after doing that, that's a good boost. You may have noticed also, if you watch closely, the hands shake a little bit. That's the intensity of the chi flowing. So it's not really struggling to hold that position. I could do this for a long time, but just the energy is moving so powerfully that you may feel a little bit of that. That's good. That's the chi flowing. So practice this technique. Rewind the video. Practice it along with me. Actually do this, and you will feel a remarkable transformation in your energy levels. And there's another video coming very soon about the mindset and patience related to fasting to follow up on another comment from Marilyn. So be sure to watch that because there's a big correlation between these two ideas. And until then, how